Hey everyone, how's it going? I also have Terry McCarthy with me. We're going to give you two perspectives. We're going to give you the millennial side, which is from me, and we're going to give you the baby boomer side, which is from Terry. So that's going to be towards the Q&A section. So I have a presentation that I put together here on millennials, and we're going to also do some Q&A afterwards. So first of all, thanks to Dan, thanks to MedTech for having me back. This truly is an awesome event, even from a recruiting perspective, right? I mean, for all the startup companies, I place reps at startups. I deal with startup CEOs, startup sales managers. I know it's, sometimes super crazy for, your companies, but the most fun part is getting reps to buy into what you guys do too. And that to me is, that's one of the most fun parts of being a recruiter, because you can place reps at the big companies every day, but to see all the startups, circulate through here and see your vision, your dream, it's fun to eventually convince reps, hey, this is where you need to be. So here's the agenda. I'm going to fill you in a little bit on myself, and then we're going to go into millennials. We're going to get some key takeaways. We're going to answer the big question, how do we work with millennials? And then we're going to go into a summary. Worst case scenario, if you have some kids that are millennials, you can maybe apply these to your kids too. And we can maybe teach them a couple things, right? So a little bit about me. I am the CEO and founder of David Bagga Company. We are a recruiting firm specializing in placing medical device, B2B, outside sales reps across the country. I've been in business since 2013. I've placed over 350 reps since 2013. In 2017, I finished number 2 out of 350 plus medical recruiters on the largest medical device recruiting network in the country. I'm also in the top 1% on LinkedIn. And so, I love really helping people break into medical sales, helping people find that next job in medical sales. That's what I live for every single day. So I'm, born and raised in Orange County. Took a 4-year break from living in Orange County to play college basketball at the University of Arizona. So, I'm super competitive. I love to win. I hate to lose. I love to recruit. So, okay. So the big question that I get asked by managers is, who the hell are millennials really? And I always smile on the other end of the phone because I love answering that question. So, focus on the left side, right? Don't focus on the right side. The left side is really, what we're all about. And when I say left side, I mean the good words on the left side, right? So, most baby boomers are going to say, oh, these guys or girls are lazy, they're entitled, they're spoiled, they're selfish, they're young, and only one of those is really true. We are young, right? But that doesn't mean that we're spoiled and entitled. There's a couple bad eggs, but I like to think that millennials are super energetic, super diverse, super hungry, super tech savvy, and really just super in general when it comes down to it, right? I mean, I think you guys knew where I was going with that. But so I want to throw some numbers out here to you guys. By 2020, which is crazy to think, that's just 2 years from now, 50%, it might be even a little bit more, of the workforce are going to be millennials. So that's really your next wave of sales reps. It's going to be half the employment out there. And I actually posted an article on LinkedIn about 2 weeks ago. Healthcare is the number 1 employer in the US now. And it's really, if you think about it, look at the jump from 2020 to 2025. It's going to be 75% millennials. So for all the startup companies in here, if you're looking for those next great reps, you're going to get them young, hungry, ready to go once the time is right, and you're going to have some awesome people to build your sales force around. This study was conducted by the Boston Consulting Group in 2000, I believe it was 2016. But the reason why I bring this chart into every talk or every seminar that I do in recruiting or when I'm talking to managers is because there's so many stereotypes of our generation, and there's so many people that think, well, we're this, we're that, or we're one thing and not the other thing. And I always encourage them to focus on what millennials can be in a good way, and let's find out how to make that great, right? So that's how we get these good reps from going from good to great, and we eventually bring them on the sales force. Okay, so I do have some key takeaways from this presentation. Like I said earlier, by 2020, I want people to embed that in their head. It is going to be your new sales force, ready, whether or not as a company, if you are ready to hire or not, your future coworker could be 2-3 years removed from school and the same age as your kid. And it's not as scary as it sounds because I think the millennials bring a lot of energy and enthusiasm to the workforce as it is. So And there's there's different expectations from work than from their parents. Obviously millennials want to go into the workforce knowing that, it's not always about working 9 to 5 and making that 150, 200. I mean, that'd be nice, but there's so many other takeaways that, that we've learned as a generation. We want a great work environment. We want that great company culture. We want to sell something that's sexy and that's really, exciting on the marketplace and that's innovative. And we want to be, I think we want to have room for advancement every single day. And so that's really something that I stress to people is a reason why to break into medical device sales or the healthcare industry, is that these products are game-changing, and every single day you get to push one of the sexiest things out on the marketplace, and it helps save people's lives, which is in itself, I think that's probably one of the most important reasons out there, right? So also too, millennials are tech savvy, right? I mean, how many people in here have kids that probably check their Instagram more than they check their homework, right? Anyone? I mean, I know I do it, and I don't have any kids either, so. But, with more and more gadgets, with more and more things evolving from social media, with, more and more things evolving every single day, especially for me, I use LinkedIn every single day. I probably use it, almost too much. And that's what millennials, that's what we're known for. We're known for being super tech savvy. And if you look at millennial sales reps, they carry that into their profession as being a sales rep. And they apply them at work. And I think that, some of those hierarchies are starting to be broken. There's really something to be said for, employers now that start to kind of see things on an even playing field, which I think is pretty cool. So, and as I said earlier, we are super innovative, right? I mean, you're gonna meet people that are in their early to mid 20s that, and the good eggs, not the bad eggs, that, are very innovative and can bring great character qualities, great expectations to an organization, even if it is a startup in the healthcare sector. So now here are some of the other takeaways that I talked about from the other side of that chart. Oftentimes I think there's a generational clash between baby boomers and millennials, right? Sometimes baby boomers will say, well, millennials are lazy, we're spoiled, we're selfish. And, as I said earlier, there are some bad eggs. I mean, there's bad eggs everywhere you go. But I always encourage managers, don't let that define, don't let these three things define what we're really about. And because like I said, by 2020, that landscape is going to change. Just 2 years from now, you're talking at least half the workforce is going to be, millennial driven, and it's only going to go up from there. So, and then here's also, too, a takeaway about millennials in corporate America. And this is some of the millennials that I place. Like I said earlier, I have placed millennials at some of the big medical device companies like Stryker, Medtronic, CR Bard, Boston Scientific. I've also done small to mid-sized companies. And what my favorite is actually the startups. And so, just because it's something exciting, I always encourage candidates, you can be a pioneer for something new. So in 5 to 10 years, you can mentor the next group coming in, too. So this is something that I touched on the last MedTech conference. This is my approach to handling millennials. Most of the reps I do place are reps that are looking to break into medical sales. So there's two philosophies that I've developed or that I've really kind of carried with me from being a former college athlete. The first one's called the attack mentality. And I wanted to talk about both of them, but because of the time, I can only talk about one. And this is what I call the care philosophy. So I really learned that, being in sales, obviously, as well as being an athlete, if you want to be successful as a rep, even as a startup, CEO of a medical company, you have to care every single day about what you're doing. Well, what does that really mean? You have to be so committed to what you're doing every single day, right? You have to bring it. You have to be competitive every single day. You can't be afraid to compete out there with anybody. And you have to communicate, especially from a candidate standpoint. I always encourage them, if you communicate with what you want, what you're looking for, what you're looking to break into, you'll have these managers, these C-level executives, even recruiters eating out of the palm of your hand. And also, too, you have to have the right attitude, right? I mean, you heard me up here a couple minutes ago saying that, the stereotype on millennials is that our attitudes are not good. There's a lot of lazy people, a lot of selfish people, and so it starts really with the attitude. And you have to be relentless in your approach. I think that, one thing when you talk about people looking to break into medical device or break into the healthcare sector, they think about this and they say, oh, it's just another job. It's just another interview that I'm going to be going to where I can, flash my smile and go from there. And that is the furthest thing from the truth. You have to be so relentless in your approach, and that leads to being what I call over-prepared, not just prepared when you go in. And then also, too, the last bullet point is, the E stands for energy, enthusiasm, and expectations, right? If you separate yourself from the competition by being extremely enthusiastic and extremely energetic about what you're selling, what call points you're calling on, whether it's a startup or whether you're joining Stryker or Medtronic, and you have realistic expectations about what you're jumping into, you're going to give yourself a better chance to be successful once you break in. So, and I want to open it up to questions, not just for me, but for Terry as well. Also, too, if anyone wants to contact me, feel free. My email's right here. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. I also brought some copies of my book, too. So I have a few in my bag if anyone's interested. They're obviously for you guys. I think I have 5 or 6 of them in there. So, but, I really want to open it up for questions. Anyone that has anything on their mind, we're here to help.
David, before we take it, I just have a couple of comments on this talk from the baby boomer perspective. And I'm sorry I don't have a PowerPoint, but this came on later in the day. But very interesting. I recruit, my company, Prodigy Search Group, we're an executive search firm. We place managers from all different specialties, not just sales, from senior managers to executive level. And it's interesting because I'm a little bit older, and because so many of the people that we place are more senior, we do deal with a lot of baby boomers. And it's interesting because everything you said, it's interesting from a baby boomer perspective. So many baby boomers, including myself at one point, although now my children are baby boomers, we had a very negative opinion of this whole generation, that they were entitled, that they were lazy, that they were whatever. And when you're interviewing someone, he says, well, I can't come in on Wednesdays because I surf every Wednesday. That sort of drives you crazy too. So anyway, okay, but one of the things that I have noticed and is so true is just what you said. Baby boomers, millennials, when you do your research, one of the most important things to them is work-life balance. And we take work-life balance as being lazy. Well, it's interesting. Work-life balance to a millennial means we're still going to work 70-hour weeks, but we're going to do it on our time. And it's really fascinating. So as baby boomers, we have to change our perspective, and we have to build an environment that really fosters that lets them be that. And one last thing, I know we're short on time, but an interesting story. My daughter and son-in-law just recently had a newborn baby, okay? My daughter had a month off, and she had to go back to work because her project was coming to fruition. So my son-in-law is on paternity leave for a month. I was talking to another friend of mine, my same age, another baby boomer. First thing he said was, that's career limiting. I thought that was interesting. I thought, you're right. That was my first gut, was my son-in-law is going to take paternity leave. And I was so impressed with this company at being that open. The environment's changing. It really is. So as baby boomers, we have to change our thinking because women and men are now equal. That talk that we had earlier about women in the workforce, I just read some statistics. There's more women, millennials, getting jobs right now than men. So I thought that was interesting. Anyway, enough gap.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. Yeah. I would say that there's always going to be objectives thrown at you, especially in the interview process. What I recommend to every candidate is that I think if you think of all the character qualities that you have, you draw them on a line, on a piece of paper, and you separate it. Think about how you're going to make those great. Elaborate on those in the interview process, and at least it'll give you some talking points for a manager to say, hey, even though I'm young and green, I'm a sponge, and you can mold me in your image of how you want me to sell, how you want me to hunt every day. And because the one thing managers like is they like being challenged professionally, right? Like if we come in there as millennials, and if we challenge them in an arrogant way, they're going to be proven right. Like, hey, we're both young. These guys are young. They don't know what they're talking about. But if you can overcome those objections just by looking into yourself more and thinking about what you're going to bring to the team, to the sales force, and where you're going to be at in 2 years if they give you a shot, and really close them on that, I think that'll help. Yeah, no problem. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's because, a lot of times I get that too, right? Recruiting sales reps, sometimes it's a revolving door. And that's not just in medical, that's just sales in general. And I think it's because things are moving so much faster now. And I think the mentality sometimes of, I think us as millennials as well, the grass is always greener on this side. Maybe I'm a clinical rep today, but I can be an OR rep tomorrow. And my response to that, to any millennial that thinks like that, would be just to stay put and give it a chance. Because one of the biggest boxes that has to be checked before you get to that next step of your career or maybe breaking into medical, right, is stability. And if a manager sees that someone is hopping around every 6 months, it doesn't matter if it's a sales rep or a clinical specialist, they're not going to want to take a chance on that person. I mean, what I would encourage is, maybe sit the reps down if they're not already gone and say, hey, let's put a game plan together. Let's try and work with each other. And let's improve on what we can do the next 6 months so we can at least get some stability, in that person's career.
One second, too, because I know we're getting the hook. One other thing, too, if you read all the literature, and because millennials did grow up in an environment where self-esteem was so emphasized when they were younger, the more often, just like David said, the more often you have reviews, and they really like positive feedback that, yes, you're doing a good job, yes, you have a future here. Some of my clients now, every 3 months, they're having standing meetings just to review their career because the pat on the shoulder goes so far. So it's really one of the ways to help. Okay.
Yeah, and any more questions, we'll take them outside. So thank you, everyone.
You guys we're on time.